lot has happened in the last couple weeks,
To say the least.
to say the least. Mom is here with me,
I am here.
so we're sharing a microphone while she looks over my shoulder and judges my writing skills.
Well, I could take my glasses off and then I wouldn't be able to see anything, so we'd be aight with that one too.
I gotta remember we have two different lines. Sorry for my hookah in the background.
I'm like, you yelled at me for a bong rip. It's not weed. We're not smoking.
We're
weed.
not smoking weed.
So, yeah.
Yeah, we have kittens now.
Oh, yeah, our barn cats had kittens.
Yeah.
Literally in the box we made up for her. And now we've got another mama that just gave birth to, but we don't know where hers are at.
I have no idea where.
And then the
hers
third's
are at.
still currently outside making lovey eyes at one of the boys. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the day's work, I guess.
I guess. It's been calm here. The eclipse was so friggin' cool.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. We're in the path of totality, so we got absolute zero. And it was, I think the coolest thing for me was seeing the 360 sunset sunrise.
The 360 sunset was really cool, but watching the sun just go poof.
Yeah, and it got cold. It got
Yeah.
real cold fast. Of course, I'm thin-blooded anyways because of Arizona, but yeah, that was very, 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 very cool.
Yeah, that was actually extremely cool to see and witness and actually be standing under it. It's such an eerie feeling,
It was.
but it was also very comforting in a way.
surreal.
Well, surreal
yeah.
for you, comforting for me. I was like, God damn, I love this.
Yeah, it was very cool. My brother-in-law and his wife stopped by, so we had a little bit of family with us. Unfortunately, the husband didn't get to make it. Daddy-o didn't get to come down for it. He's up babysitting the fur babies.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had to drive all by myself across the country. A little intimidating, but
It wasn't too bad.
no, it was more. I was more nervous when I just started out and it was still dark, and you know, Mama don't see good at night. So, like, yeah, that was a little. And then I, of course, ran into snow in Flagstaff and snow again and some other part of, I think it was over in Santa Rosa or something like that. But yeah. So now I got to do a return trip next week and head home because I've been here for almost a month.
But on a bonus part, we've got fiber internet now, which has been kind of back and forth, but I think she's starting to settle now. She's going to replace.
Yeah, Katie's living high on the hog
Oh
out here
my
in the
God.
out in the hog country.
It's so nice.
And I'm in the cab or in the trailer with the what is it, Starlink Wi-Fi, just barely loading pages. Yep, it's been a little chilly, a little warm, a little chilly, a lot of chilly, and now it's raining. So
Yeah.
good times
And humid.
and humid. Yeah,
It's fine.
it's good.
It's good.
We're all good.
All right. So, before we get started, while we understand that some individuals listen for the entertainment aspect of true crime, it's important to remember that these are real people with families and friends who may still be suffering from their loss. These stories are not meant to open old wounds or cause further emotional damage to those involved. We remind you, please be respectful and do not dox or contact those involved with cases. The cases discussed on this podcast today may be disturbing to some listeners, and listener discretion is advised. Trigger warnings for today is a whole Christmas tree of hell. So we've got, unfortunately, minors are involved, sexual assault, and heavy domestic violence. So if you're not looking for that today,
Catch us next week.
catch us next week. So today we're going to be discussing the murders of Amina and Sarah Said. Now, to minimize confusion between individuals involved in this case, I would be calling people by their first names contrary to their last names. However, I usually do first name rather than last name because it can get really confusing really quick. So we have Amina Said, who was 18 years old. She was described as a funny, outspoken social butterfly by friends and family. Her favorite color was pink, and she always had strong, positive vibes and presence wherever she went. While her sister, Sarah Said, who was 17 years old, was described as a sweet and knowledgeable tomboy who was always smiling. Both of the girls had intentions of continuing into college after graduating from high school and becoming doctors.
Ooh, good ambitions.
Patricia Said met Yaser Abel Said and his family when she was young. The Said family worked a little convenience store next to their apartments. Yaser was the oldest of 5 kids in his family. The younger brother to Yaser is Yushri, who was about a year younger than Yaser. Then Yasin, Melsun, and then the youngest sister, Glada. Patricia was 14 when she first started dating Yasin, who's roughly 13 years older than her at the time, at around the age of 27 years old.
Dang.
Yasin actually asked Patricia's dad to marry her, and her dad said that would be okay and just let them know to sign the papers allowing her to get married. However, the two broke up, and Patricia soon began dating Yaser instead. Now, Patricia married Yaser Abel Said at around the age of 15 or 16 years old with the permission of her parents. At the time, Yaser was 14 years older than her, putting him in his late 20s or early 30s. Some of the reason behind the early marriage was that Patricia's family was poor, and having her out of the house would help them a little bit more financially. Yaser promised that he would give a better life to Patricia than she already had, and being as both families were friends, it would grant Yaser a visa to stay within the United States instead of having to return to Egypt, as he was originally in the United States under a student visa. Now, Patricia describes this relationship as being good and loving to start with. Then, around 6 or 7 months in, Yaser began to become controlling and abusive to her. The two would argue about Yaser not wanting Patricia to have contact with her family, using the reason behind it that due to her family being American, they weren't good. Yaser would be verbally abusive, saying it was a mistake to marry an American. Eventually, this escalated further into physical and mental abuse, where Yaser would come home from work and hit Patricia to wake her up or injure her upon refusing intercourse. He would pour out drawers of items onto the floor and then force her to clean it up immediately. So, Patricia and Yaser had 3 children. Islam, who was born when Patricia was 16, Amina, who was born when Patricia was 17, and Sarah, who was born when Patricia was 18. After Patricia had Islam, Yaser started driving a taxi for work. However, he stopped working after a while. According to Patricia, Yaser was very unfaithful to their marriage, noting that he had 6 affairs that she was aware of. Apparently, Yaser also has another daughter in one of these relations prior to meeting Patricia and marrying her. This daughter is about a year older than Islam. Yaser had a very early reputation for violence. According to Patricia, prior to Yaser moving to the United States in 1983, Yaser became angry with a coworker and he waited in his car for the individual to leave the workplace. Then, upon the coworker leaving the establishment, Yaser repeatedly ran over the individual with his car, which resulted in the coworker's death. Apparently, though, Yaser's father paid an undisclosed amount of money to get Yaser out of trouble. When Amina was approximately 9 years old and Sarah was 8 years old, Amina told her grandmother, Patricia's mom, that Yaser had touched her inappropriately. As a result, Patricia took the girls to the hospital and an examination was performed on the 2 of them. Patricia left Yaser and stayed with her mom during this time. She also contacted the police department and Child Protective Services, became involved with the case. In the report, Amina disclosed that Yaser had sexually penetrated her with his penis 1 time, and on several other occasions, he used fingers to sexually penetrate her and touch her breasts.
Jesus.
Sarah disclosed in this report that her father had put his finger in her rectum as well as her vagina, as well as touched her on her breasts. In a taped interview, it was disclosed that Amina asked him to stop at one point, to which Yaser responded, "Oh, really?" and proceeded. Additionally, in the conducted interview, both girls described how they were terrified of their father and his brothers, and that they will take them. Islam also was interviewed at this time, and stated that he was never touched by Yaser on his privates. However, when the examination results returned, it was determined that sexual assault could not be ruled out due to lack of physical evidence. So that basically means, like, because there's no presence of rape or what's happened or bruising to the tissue, it doesn't necessarily mean that it didn't occur. Yaser, as a result, was taken in for questioning by the police. He was upset due to the accusation and would repeatedly call the grandmother's house at all hours of the night. Connie, Patricia's sister, described the phone as constantly ringing every 30 minutes, even though he was told to stop calling. During the day, he'd drive past the house and make threats to Patricia and her parents, to which Jill, Patricia's aunt, stated Yaser was arrested in retaliation against the girls. However, Patricia states and believes that Yaser went to jail for an excessive amount of parking tickets. It is documented on the arrest form that Yaser did go to jail for retaliation.
Yeah, it's because a restraining order is just a piece of paper.
Unfortunately, and it's not clear on what happened, but it's theorized that someone made the girls recant their statements regarding the sexual assault so that Yaser would not face jail time. According to Connie, Amina had left a written letter stating that Patricia had forced the recant and begged not to be taken back to the house with Yaser. Connie hid this letter, thinking that it would be safe in her room. However, she believes at some point Patricia went into her room, took the letter, and disposed of it before returning with the girls to Yaser. Patricia notes that she did not think that Yaser would ever abuse his daughters. Patricia and Yaser took the kids to Maryland for a couple of months. Then they went to Egypt for a few more months until things quieted down in Texas and they felt safe to return. During this time, Patricia was scared that Yaser would follow up on threats to hurt her parents. According to Connie, and it's not exactly clear if this happened prior to the girls' sexual assault allegations or not, they have a younger sister whose name will be undisclosed and will remain that way out of respect for her privacy. This younger sister would go over and help with the girls and Islam. However, it got to a point where she would beg not to go. This was originally theorized to be laziness. However, when Connie asked this younger sister, she mentioned how Yaser had touched her.
Oh, son of a bitch.
So Patricia's family did not file charges on this incident due to the fear that Yaser and his brothers would do something like, what's he gonna do to us? Thinking they can handle it within the family and not let this younger sister go over there anymore. Figuring he wouldn't do this to his own children. Patricia states that she didn't know about the extent of the abuse. However, Connie goes into detail on how Patricia actually knew.
Of course.
Now, transitioning into the teen years of Amina and Sarah, in the documentary, The Price of Honor, there is a home video filmed by Yaser making fun of them sleeping in their everyday clothes and making comments like nice legs and laughing at them and asking Islam to take the blankets off of the girls, specifically take the blanket off the one in the back when Sarah was trying to cover herself. And as Islam does, he zooms in directly on her butt.
Nice.
When Amina covers them both with a blanket, Yaser directs Islam to take the other one. When the girls are uncovered, the camera goes directly towards their lower halves, and he makes comments like, very nice. The two girls are obviously uncomfortable, and they're asking him repeatedly to stop and get out of their room. And Amina even follows up with, this is illegal. Do I videotape you when you're sleeping?
Fucking creep.
At the age of about 16 years old, Amina had met a boy named Joseph at a local karate studio where they both attended classes. Joseph and Amina started to connect during lessons, which progressed into a relationship that was described as your typical teenage love. The two were constantly together when they could be, and they were head over heels for each other. Amina had first noted her father as strict to Joseph to explain why she was unable to do certain things that other girls her age could do, such as dating. Ultimately, at this time, it progressed into the relationship, Amina started to open up more to Joseph about the prior abuse and how Yaser was more than just controlling. Joseph eventually went to his mother Ruth with this information about the things that Amina had told him, and she became involved with the situation and became very close with Amina over the time, which involved the two of them emailing back and forth regularly.
Nice.
In accordance with Yasser's wishes, Amina and Sarah had to marry Muslim men and not American men. When Amina was 16, she remarked on how she was going to be taken to Egypt and married off to a 40-year-old man, a complete stranger, by Yasser, noting in an email that he's going to take me over there and let some guy choose me like I'm a frickin' object.
No, that's how that works.
Amina refused this marriage and noted to Ruth that Yasser was going to marry them off to the highest paying male. After Amina had heard Yasser and his brother Yassine discussing bride prices in Egypt and introducing the girls to men far beyond the girls' years. So Joseph, hearing this, wanted to get Amina out of the state as soon as possible. The two had multiple plans to run away as soon as it was possible, the most prominent one being that they would run away to Vegas, get married, and Ruth was willing to do whatever it took to help Amina and Joseph out. She didn't want the two to have to go through this alone. Joseph's whole family stood behind him and Amina for support whenever it came time to make their move. So, as things progressed and became more serious, they couldn't go to Amina's house to pick her up like a normal relationship, as Yasser was there a majority of the time. Amina would have to be picked up by Joseph and Ruth at the karate studio if they wanted to do anything to avoid Yasser's eye. Amina became afraid to text anything to Joseph, as her father might see the messages. Yaser would follow the girls everywhere and went as far as to bug and listen to the conversations that Amina would have in the car.
Oh, Jesus.
Yaser had the two girls so scared that they would not use a public telephone out of fear that he could be listening to their conversations.
Good Lord.
Yaser would also go as far as to videotape Amina at work or at the karate studio and would become very angry when she interacted with customers or smiled at them. To avoid Yaser's prying eye, the two did communicate using a journal for some time, which Amina would be extremely careful not to bring home, usually leaving it in her locker at school or at the karate studio. At some point, Yaser had gone back to Egypt for a while, which allowed the young couple some breathing space to actually act like teenagers. Amina, during this time, would bring the journal home, and one day, Yaser goes through Amina's things and finds this journal, which contains all these love letters she had written to Joseph.
Yeah, shit.
As a result of finding this journal and these letters, Yaser became very angry, and it's described in the Investigation Discovery episode, Forbidden Love, The Shame of the Father, as Yaser going berserk. Amina lied, saying that the letter was fictional and it was just someone she'd simply made up. However, shortly after this incident, Amina stopped showing up for the karate lessons that her and Joseph attended, and Yaser moved the whole family away from the area in Texas.
Good God.
Joseph and Ruth became fearful, as Amina had given indication that if Yaser had ever found out about the two's relationship, he would hurt, kill, or send her and Sarah back to Egypt. A short time after, Amina made contact with a karate instructor and told him what had happened via email. Amina stated in her email that Yaser had purchased a home in Louisville, Texas, and moved the family there within 2 days, and that she hated it there. Amina also requested the instructor to give Joseph a message. I heart Jojo, and I pray that we'll be together again. After receiving this email, the instructor contacted Joseph's parents asking what they should do regarding this information provided in the email. Ruth was thrilled to know that Amina was safe, alive, and still in the United States. However, she didn't tell Joseph about the letter or that she'd contacted them through email for his safety and for Amina's safety. She then proceeded to quickly email Amina back, Amina told Ruth that Yaser wanted Joseph's information regarding his location as he wanted to go after him, saying that Yaser wanted to kill Joseph.
Wouldn't surprise me a bit.
Nope. Amina comforts Ruth, telling her that she'd said nothing regarding Joseph. However, as a result, Yaser beat Amina to where you could not tell her braces apart from her lips, in addition to kicking her in the stomach and other parts of her face while calling her a whore.
Dad of the Year award coming up.
Patricia says that Amina did not have braces and that the two were not fighting, that Yaser was not abusive towards the kids, that it was just Patricia that he was abusive towards, stating, and I quote, "He was a good dad. He loved his kids."
Oh, yeah.
On the way to the hospital, though, Amina stated that Patricia had received a call from one of Yaser's brothers, specifically Yasin, who said they shouldn't go to the hospital because Yaser could go to jail as a result, which resulted in Patricia turning the car around and taking Amina back home. Shortly after, Amina and Sarah were taken to Egypt against their wills, to which Amina was absolutely terrified and conveyed in emails to Ruth that Yaser was going to leave them there and he was going to take both their American passports upon entering the country. Ruth and Amina went back and forth where Amina gave her information like her social security number and other identifiers, asking her to find out if there's some type of way that she could get back to the United States without her passport. During the trip to Egypt, Amina does manage to get in touch with Ruth, mainly through an internet cafe, it's theorized, and briefly tells her that something was really wrong because shortly after their arrival, Yaser did exactly what she feared and took both of the girls' passports. After this, communication went silent for some time, and upon their return, Amina reached out to Ruth, letting her know that she had made it back to the United States. Most of the emails that were sent between Ruth and Amina focused on Joseph and her love for him, along with the ultimate concern for his safety. Amina would beg for Ruth to let him write her, and after some time, Ruth provided Joseph with Amina's information so that they could write to each other. Joseph notes how everything felt very real and that they wouldn't give up on each other no matter what was going on, saying, "Everything we had was worth fighting for, and for her, it was worth dying for."
Oh, goodness.
Now, Amina, over the time, began to become more desperate and depressed with her situation, and at one point, she tried to commit suicide. She was taken to the hospital where counselors and people were trying to help her. However, she was afraid that with her being a minor, anything that she said to these individuals could make it back to her parents, and that would cause things to become worse at home. Moving forward, we're going to break this down in a day-by-day timeline. So, around Christmas in 2007, Yaser made the ultimate threat to Amina, that he would kill her for dating an American boy. Patricia, as a response to this threat, contacted her family, letting them know that she was afraid for Amina and Sarah's safety and was planning to leave. Patricia contacts her Aunt Jill, letting her know that she's got the girls and they're coming to her house in Wichita, Kansas. On December 25th of 2007, Christmas morning, Amina notifies Joseph that they are on the move to get away from Yaser, but will not say where they are going. On December 26th of 2007, Patricia, Amina, and her friend Eddie, as well as Sarah and her boyfriend Eric, ran away from Louisville, Texas to Wichita, Kansas, where Jill lives. The original plan had been for the girls to run away with their boyfriends. However, Patricia noted that she couldn't let that happen, and she too wanted to get away from Yaser. This obviously made individuals involved with trying to help Amina and Sarah concerned due to Patricia's previous repeated attempts to leave Yaser, ending with her just returning.
Exactly.
As a result of the girls leaving, Yaser and Islam both file missing persons reports on the girls, to which officers contacted Patricia to make sure that everything was okay and that the girls were fine, to which Patricia told officers that she would call them the next day or two and fill them in on information. In the evening, the group was getting ready to sit down and eat when Jill noted that she didn't have enough chips for salsa. Patricia offered to retrieve them from the store, to which she took all the kids with her. And upon returning, she addressed Jill that they would not be staying and instead would be going on to Tulsa, Oklahoma. On December 27th of 2007, the group stayed in a hotel while looking for a rental in Tulsa, during which they got new phones from a small carrier to avoid being tracked by Yaser. Patricia then notified the police that she had taken the girls and was not intending on coming back out of fear for their safety. On December 28th of 2007, Patricia signed a lease to an apartment under a assumed name to ensure that Yaser could not trace them, and the group moved in right away. Connie talked to Islam, who was, as she noted, very upset and saying that he just wanted his mom and his sisters to come home and that he missed them. Yaser got on the phone with Connie and stated how he missed Patricia and the girls and just wanted them to come home. Connie then proceeds to contact Patricia after this phone call with Islam and Yaser, letting her know what was being said and how she believed it to simply be a trick. To which Patricia states that she had no plans of going back at the time. On December 29th of 2007, Eddie had to return to Texas due to a prior engagement as a DJ. Patricia decided to call and check her messages on her previous number and heard all of the messages from Yasin telling them to go back home, like Yaser won't be there, this is your house, so on and so forth. Amina contacted Joseph at this time with concerns that Patricia was having second thoughts and her mom just wanted to go back home to the father. That Patricia felt guilty for abandoning her husband. Patricia continued talking with Yasin, who stated that if she didn't want Yaser there, he could be removed from the house. After that, according to Patricia, Sarah and Amina and herself all talked to Yaser and agreed on going back to Texas.
Oh, Jesus.
Eric, Sarah's boyfriend, recalls that Amina never knew Sarah and Patricia were going to see Yaser, and that he didn't know Sarah had even spoken to Yaser while the group was in Tulsa. According to Connie, Sarah agreed to go back to keep the problems down, and Amina was never told they were going back. According to Jill, both girls hated their father and never wanted to go back home.
Can't blame them.
On December 30th of 2007, Amina was told that they were returning to drop off Eddie and put flowers on Patricia's mom's grave for her birthday, and they were going to stay for the New Year's. That they would be staying with Connie, who never knew that they were returning to Texas in the first place. However, upon returning to Texas, Amina is informed that she is returning to Yaser. To which Amina retorts, saying she's not going home, and goes to Eddie's house, where she stays the night.
Good for her.
On December 31st of 2007, Patricia informs Amina that she does not intend to return to Tulsa. This sends Amina into hysterics, and she calls Connie to let her know that Patricia had returned to Yaser. Amina was absolutely horrified, knowing that Patricia would tell Yaser everything now. Joseph and Amina message back and forth on how they both need to leave as soon as possible. On January 1st of 2008, Patricia begs Amina to come home, calling and texting repeatedly. Patricia says that Amina called to be picked up to come collect her school things. However, according to Jill, Amina was horrified that her dad was going to kill her if she returned. Joseph told her it was a horrible idea to go back or trust her mom, to which Amina responded with that she had to do what she had to do and that she loved him. Patricia then goes over to Eddie's, where Amina is staying, and convinces her to go back home. Yaser said that he wanted to take Amina and Sarah out to dinner and talk with them. Once the girls were inside the vehicle, Yaser drove to Irving, where he shot both girls multiple times. Amina died instantly, while Sarah was able to make a 911 call. Now, 911 calls are public record. However, due to the high dislike of them, I'm probably not going to put it in here, but it will definitely be on our website. And if you want to watch The Price of Honor, I highly recommend it. It's about an hour and 22 minutes, 45 seconds in. So now, unfortunately, due to Yaser still driving the vehicle at the time of this 911 call, they couldn't get an exact triangulation on it. The taxi cab that Yaser had been driving was found in the back of the Omni Hotel parking lot with the bodies of the two girls still inside. Investigators found the girls had been shot a total of 11 times.
Oh, that's a crime of passion for sure.
With the 911 call, Sarah identified the killer as being Yaser, as well as the home video recordings Yaser had made and the phone calls that were made before and after the girls' deaths. Authorities began their manhunt for Yaser Abdel Said, who had vanished without a trace. Yaser quickly made it to the FBI's most wanted list for a honor killing. So honor killings and honor violence have been known since the times of the Romans, where the senior male in the house is reserved the right to kill the male or the female members of the family in the thought of bringing dishonor upon the household. It is not unique to one culture or religion throughout the world, and it should not be seen as such. However, the most common places that honor killings take place today are the Middle East and South Africa. Now, typically, it is a senior male that carries out these actions. However, women can also be involved as collaborators at times. Many times, the wives or spouses of the males that carry out this action are just at the same risks of becoming a victim of honor killings themselves. Female victims are typically eliminated if rumors begin to circulate about impropriety or disobedience. This includes girls who have possibly been sexually assaulted. Male victims are typically eliminated for violating sexual norms or defying their father's authority. Islam stated in an interview with Fox News in the following days that I hope he just turns himself in because, he messed up the whole family. However, Yaser did not turn himself into the authorities. Islam, on the other hand, would also turn around and make comments to news media saying the girls deserved what they got.
What an asshole.
There's a theory that Connie stated that after Yaser committed the murders, one of his brothers had to come pick him up, considering Yaser would have been covered in blood from shooting one of the girls twice and the other 9 times. How do you get away from a crime scene without anyone seeing you in that state?
Yeah, his brothers are his conspirators too.
Amina had also disclosed in emails that Yaser's brothers were just as bad as him. And if something were to happen to Yaser, they would take his place and go through with the same threats that Yaser had made to the girls. Girls from the other brothers have already been taken to Egypt and married off if they are of age as well. So,
Oh yeah, does not surprise me.
when the documentary crew of The Price of Honor attempted to reach out and make contact with the other members of the Said family, they were responded with backlash and death threats, so they decided to not make any further contact. It was found that in the week prior to the murders, Yaser had made contact with Yassine through phone calls, racking up to several calls a day in a total of 861 minutes. Then there is one more call that had taken place 3.5 hours after Sarah had called 911. This is a 12-minute phone call between Yaser and Yassine. Glada is also wanted by law enforcement for kidnapping her children and moving back to Egypt after the court system had given the father custody of the children. She went home, packed a couple of outfits, diapers, and Yassine took her to Canada, where she was there for about a year before moving back to Cairo, Egypt. Islam disconnected with the family shortly after the girls were killed and went over to Egypt for reportedly 3 years. At the time of the recording The Price of Honor in 2014, Patricia had not spoken to Islam since 2008. However, it's important to make note that Patricia, throughout this whole documentary, changes her story repeatedly to the point where friends don't know which way is up, sideways, down, or backwards. They just don't know what to believe from her. Additionally, when she was allowed to return to the home in Irving, Patricia went inside and collected Yaser's birth certificate, tape recordings, and a box of important documents. There is also documented contact with Yaser and Patricia following the murders on her phone records.
So she's basically complicit in all of this too. Oh my god.
As of the recording of The Price of Honor in 2014, Patricia had not been subjected to a polygraph, stating, "It's just going to waste my time."
Yeah, because you can't remember what story you want to tell, you stupid bitch.
The FBI believes that Yaser continued to work as a taxi driver in the United States, but also mentioned that he had ties to New York, Canada, Texas, and Egypt, while also possessing an Egyptian and United States passport. However, many people believe that he never left the States and that he was still in Texas. Amina even stated in an email that he would never leave because he loved the States. On August 14th of 2020, a maintenance man at an apartment in Bedford, Texas, spotted Yaser and reported it to the FBI. Then, on August 23rd of 2020, Yaser Abdel Said was arrested and charged with capital murder. The FBI found that Islam and Yassine had been concealing Yaser's whereabouts for the majority of the time Yaser was on the run, including delivering groceries and removing trash from the home to a secondary location. Both were arrested on charges of one of conspiracy to conceal a person from arrest, one count of concealing a person from arrest, and one count of conspiracy to obstruct the official proceeding.
Good.
In response to Yaser's arrest, Patricia made a statement to the media saying that now the girls can rest in peace. Yaser was on the run for so long, it's hard to wrap my brain around it. I am very happy now. It was the happiest moment. He's caught and justice can be served for Amina and Sarah. In 2022, Yaser Said entered a plea of not guilty in regards to the capital murder of Sarah and Amina Said. And on Tuesday, August 9th of 2022, he was convicted of the murders and sentenced to life in prison without possibility of parole.
He needs to be beat to death.
My thing is, how can you do that to your own children?
It happens all the time.
I know it happens all the time, but it's like, how can you do that?
It's, unfortunately, it is. I will probably not get this right, but I would say, like, it's a major third world type of mentality. Once again, women are not of value. They are stock, like the animals and everything else. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
But like I said, it's not unique to one culture.
No.
Because honestly, like, there are honor killings that happen in the United States that are just white-based crime. And it's horrifying.
Yeah. Well, they all label it under honor killing, but it's just, why don't they just remove the honor and just go with what it really is, just fucking killing people.
Yeah.
And it's like, and sadly, it's the women and girls that suffer the most. And again, a restriction or a
Restraining order is just a piece of paper. And unfortunately, like, in most states, you're forced to put your address on a restraining order.
exactly,
Which gives them exactly the details of where you are at.
Yep.
It's horrifying.
It really is. It's, I cannot say it strong enough. Get a weapon, not necessarily if you don't like guns, a knife, something.
Something.
Taser, gas, palm, pepper sprays are great. Something that gives you a little bit of an edge.
Yeah.
And I love when dudes go, yeah, but, you know, he'll just take the gun away from the woman. I'd like to see him try.
The unfortunate thing is that these are two teenage girls. So it's...
No, the unfortunate thing is they had a mother who...
That's very unfortunate.
That's the thing. She should be held...
responsible as well.
Absolutely. She should be in jail, too, because she did absolutely... No, she kept returning to the son of a bitch.
The unfortunate thing is that these are two teenage girls, and they were in a horrible situation. And honestly, there are some weapons you just can't get as a teenager unless your parents give them to you.
Yeah.
So the protection isn't really there.
Well, you can actually, I think of an age, you can actually have pepper spray. Which I'm not saying it's a great thing. You need to learn how to use it.
Yeah, because otherwise you're going to get backsplashed and that shit hurts.
Well, that's why gel ones work so much better. Yeah. Gel pepper spray is the bomb. But again, the mother is just as complicit in this, if not more so, because she returned time and again to this piece of shit.
I think the saddest part is that both of the girls are buried in a Muslim cemetery in Texas, and it is just so worn down and not taken care of. It breaks my heart to see that they're there. And I mean, Ruth even says, like, she goes and lays flowers on their graves whenever she can. It makes her just so sad to see that they are here and just not being taken care of and respected.
No, and part of that is the family to do it, but it all comes from they really had no respect for him to begin with, so why would they respect him in death?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's one thing I do love about Arkansas. All the little cemeteries
All
around
the little
here.
cemeteries around here
Oh
are
my
so
God.
well kept.
Oh, the flowers, the graves are trimmed. They're always nice and neat, and it's just, granted, there's one every 20 feet or so, but still. There's a lot of cemeteries here.
Yep.
So, but extremely sad. And again,
Extremely
ladies,
sad.
nobody's coming to help you. You need to be your own first responder right off the bat.
That too. And if you are in a situation where you are facing domestic violence and you want to get out, there are some wonderful organizations.
Yep.
I would suggest the RAINN organization is a good one, as well as the Domestic Violence Hotline, I want to say. There are resources out there. Make sure that if you're going to look at these things, though, you use a browser that isn't going to track your history. So something like DuckDuckGo, it has that wonderful little flame tab up there.
Burns it up.
It burns it all.
Yeah.
So they can't see what you're looking at.
Unfortunately, DuckDuckGo's been compromised, though. You won't always get the good readings that you want out of it, too. But still, at the very least, I'm not a big fan of alphabet agencies. However, your local police department can at least point you in the right direction.
The right direction. Yeah. And there are victims advocacy people at police departments to help you out.
Yep. Yeah, it's heartbreaking that they tried so valiantly to get away and didn't want to go back. Mm-hmm. And that's why it just pisses me off that the mother went ahead and took them back regardless.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, if you want to go back to being beat to death, knock yourself out. You're not taking the kids with you. Mm-hmm. That's just, and I can't believe that the sisters of hers let them go.
Well, it was just kind of like a what the hell situation of, they're here, they're not, okay, they're going to Tulsa, and then nobody else is told that they're going back to Texas. Mm-hmm. Nobody knew.
It's entirely fucked up, to say the least. So, there is help out there, folks.
Yep. And if you want to find it quickly, you can follow the link down below. It links to the references to this episode. However, I do have a resource tab on our website that does have like the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children, and it also has RAINN, and I think it has one more domestic violence one on there. If you need those resources, they are there for a specific reason. Please use them. Thank you again for listening to Spattered. Please make sure to follow the show on Facebook and Instagram at Spattered Podcast and on X at Spattered Pod. If you're enjoying the show, make sure to follow and leave a 5-star rating on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or wherever you get your podcasts from. If you're watching on YouTube, like this video, subscribe, and ring the notification bell to be notified when the show goes live or drops a video. As always, if you have a case request, any questions, or are interested in sponsoring the show, please email me at spatteredpodcast@gmail.com. Spattered is a true crime podcast hosted by Caitlin Gardner and Sarah Ray. The research and edits for this episode were done by Caitlin Gardner. All the music for the show was done by Lucio Cardenas. We'll see you next time. Stay safe out there. And remember, The truth is always in the blood.